Hey guys, so just to remind you, I am offering coaching, and so if you're interested in deepening your personal or spiritual growth, feel free to click the link in the description. Otherwise, let's jump into the video. So today I want to share with you a pretty significant shift that happened in my life, maybe about 4 years ago now. And it was when I decided to spend a whole bunch of my time learning about enlightenment and awakening. Now, to give you some context, at the time, I was at university, I had very few distractions, and I was living this very simple, very independent life. And the beautiful thing about this was it was perfect for spiritual work, right? I was able to spend a load of my time on my own, meditating and contemplating. Now, if you're curious about what I was contemplating, it was enlightenment, awakening, and how the hell to experience it. Because at this point, I was very metaphysically curious. I hadn't had, a proper enlightenment experience before. I had meditated for a good few years and had a bunch of, mini glimpses. But now I wanted to go deep. I wanted a genuine experience, right? I really just wanted to be shown that enlightenment is something that you can actually do. Because after studying it for a while, you get impatient. You just want a direct experience of what you're thinking about all day long. Because you want it to be real, and this is where awakenings or enlightenment experiences come into play. Now, for me, the experience that I had, it wasn't like a random one. I can tell you that it was the result of doing a bunch of spiritual work on myself. And so to get into it, I remember having this very quiet, very reflective day, just doing a lot of deep thinking, a lot of contemplation. And I was just chilling on the edge of my bed, having just finished up some meditation. Now, I already knew at this point that I was in a deeper state than normal because it had been about an hour of meditating, whereas to me, it maybe felt like 20 minutes, So my perception of time was maybe my first clue. And then I was sort of feeling like if I just kept myself very, very still, something was going to happen. I was going to allow for my own higher self to come through. And at this point, I wish I could remember what I did internally to make this shift happen. But the truth is, when you finally get through to a higher state, you kind of just let go of trying to remember how you got there, right? Because now you don't really care anymore. Now you're just in. You just want to go as deep as possible from here. So I decided to let go and surrender my thinking, my remembering. And then after maybe about 30 minutes, what I had was this very subtle shift in my awareness. And having this shift, it made my mind and my direct experience become very, very quiet, very Zen-like. And I was having this experience of expansiveness. My consciousness was gently expanding. And at first, it was barely even there. I could kind of still feel my ego in the background, which was pretty annoying. But as I sank deeper into it, it became enough. It became enough for me to properly let go and see what I needed to see. And what this was, and I actually said it out loud, I said, I can see that I'm asleep right now. I can see my ego right now asleep in a lower state of consciousness. And as I realized this, I was able to see in my own mind this stunningly clear image of the Seb character. And I really can't convey what this was like other than saying it was extremely meta, right? Extremely elevated, extremely detached. And I could finally see this person that I apparently am. But it wasn't like normal. It was from the higher self perspective. So I was watching myself in such a way where I wasn't myself. I was my higher self. And I was watching the Seb character. And I could literally see him trying to awaken from his dream, right? And this is where it gets trippy because even just saying this now kind of takes me back there, right? If I try and tune in right now, I can kind of feel it as I'm talking to you. And it's very surreal, very metaphysical. And the beauty of it is it's always here. What I'm talking about is happening right now. What's talking to you through this body is not actually Seb, but the higher self. Seb is the vessel, whereas the underlying consciousness is the truth of this character. That's what's really speaking, and that's what's really here. Now, another thing that stuck with me from having this experience was that enlightenment work doesn't really even begin until you've realized that you're asleep. Because until you realize that you're asleep, you just don't even know to awaken. For example, people in general, they just have no idea that there's this thing called awakening. People do not think, yeah, I'll just go out I'll do my shopping, I'll have some dinner, and then, I think I'll sit down, turn my attention inward, raise my consciousness, and awaken. Right? No, this is not a possibility in people's minds. And I know this because I was like this. I remember what it was like before. And the option here is just really not there. Why? Because we're too damn asleep. We're just very busy doing our everyday normal lives, not fully conscious of what's going on. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually perfect. It's the illusion working as it should. However, if you want to wake yourself up and see through the illusion, you can. And this is the work that leads to that. Now, one thing I saw in myself when having an experience like this is that because it's so new, because it's so exciting, you try and absorb as much as you possibly can from it. Right? If you're anything like me, you'll treat it like it's one of the last moments that you'll ever have because nothing matters anymore, right? You're in. And now you're just seeing things as they are. And this is the most reassuring thing in the whole world because everything feels like it's okay. Everything is in perspective. And you can finally just relax into being absolutely nobody. And honestly, this is one of the best feelings in the world because when you're in a higher state of consciousness, then and only then do you get the ultimate break from your own mind. And I say the ultimate break because doing anything else would mean that you're still in mind. Whereas with this, you go beyond mind, right? You leave it behind and you just completely surrender. So this is something to look forward to if you're really, serious about this work and you're lucky enough to have a breakthrough experience. So now to bring this to the present, what kind of things can you do to realize that you are asleep? Well, to put it simply, it's anything that raises your consciousness. So for me, I actually have this daily, and it happens pretty much any time that I meditate for more than about 20 minutes. Because in these moments, I become aware of just how unconscious I've become throughout the day. Now, what's really cool about this is that when you do, come back to being conscious and you realize that you've been asleep, sometimes it might make you smile. Sometimes it might make you kind of laugh. But most of the time, what I do is I just hold this silence. And the reason I do this, I hold this silence, is because this silence is acknowledging all the time that I've spent away from this higher consciousness. All the time that I felt disconnected from God. And I'm just having a moment of silence for myself. Because for a period of however many hours or days, the illusion actually felt very real. And this really stresses us out. So this technique of meditating and then holding silence for yourself is something that I really recommend. And it's really, really good for integration. Because if you can come back to this space 2-3 times a day, you're going to be integrating more and more that life is in fact this game. And that you don't ever need to get too worked up, too stressed out. Because ultimately, it's all perfect. Now, of course, you will get stressed. You will fall back asleep. But that's because you're a human. And that's the illusion working as it should. So don't worry if you do fall unconscious. It's inevitable. And sometimes you've just got to cherish those moments where you are awake. So now to wrap things up, the final thing that I want to share about this experience is that it really did show me that enlightenment and awakening is possible, right? I'd probably say that the biggest reason why we just don't come across this stuff is because our consciousness is far too low, right? And so that's that's why the biggest goal of our work is to raise our consciousness, is to become more aware, right? Everything we do is in service of this one thing. So always, always remember that it's about being conscious. So that's it for me. If you've enjoyed this one and you would like more, then my friend, please do subscribe.